Hey everybody, Omar here, the Knife Shark Guy, and I am back with another fun-filled video for you. And today we're going to be going over the concept of knife deployment, knife mechanisms, and the different ways we all like to flip our knives. And then we're going to get into my favorite topic, front flippers. So, let's talk about all the different types of flippers there are out there. Everybody knows there's the regular flipper knife. This is my zero tolerance 0562. The concept of this is quite simple. You have a flipper and you will just simply press down on that and the knife will pop open. That's usually the most popular way to deploy a knife, and everybody's very well familiar with it. The problem with this flipper or the side flipper is that we don't like to have the idea of the knife actually having this peck in our pockets. So some people prefer the second alternative to deploying a knife. The unique Spidey hole. This is the Spyderco Swish Bowie. Basically, we just take our thumb, stick it into the hole, and it pops right back out. Real nice and simple. Real nice, real elegant, and definitely one of the most genius inventions ever made was that Spidey hole. And, of course, before that, the most popular probably, or at least next to the popular one, would be the thumb stud. I don't think the thumb stud, in my own opinion, I don't think it's really as aesthetically pleasing as the Spidey hole, or maybe even the regular flipper that everybody's so familiar with. But the concept of the thumb stud does work. And even that takes some practice. If you're not a knife person, you want to be able to flick that out real easy. This one, of course, has the access lock on it, so you have that other way of deploying it. But that's a special way. I just specifically wanted to talk about the thumb stud. So those are the three main ways that we're familiar with deploying knives, right? You got the thumb stud. We've got the Spidey hole, and then we also have the regular flipper knife. So there's the three. And then we have a totally foreign concept to probably many of you. Maybe some of you have heard of it. Maybe a few of you even own some of these. Maybe even own a knife with this type of deployment. And that is the front flipper mechanism. Now, the concept of the front flipper mechanism was invented by a guy named Fanny Lagrange in South Africa. So the front flipper is really a South African knife invention by a knife maker named Fanny Lagrange. I hope I said his name correctly. If I didn't, shoot me. However, the person who popularized the front flipper, as far as I know, and really brought it out into the open so that everybody could see how it works and understand how it works, is probably Fred Berger. His son, Trevor Berger, is now the dominant knife maker in the family. He made this EXK with a front flipper, ironically. So there you have it. So, now the thing is, what's interesting about front flippers is that, especially in South Africa, each knife maker makes their own front flipper design, and they all have a different feel and a different deployment process to it than all the others. So each one of these are completely different than the one before it. So let's take a look at this one by Des Horn. So this one, as you can see, this is the Slim Vubu by Des Horn. So this one, you don't even see the front flipper on this one. It's completely disappeared, but if you look at it closer, there it is right there. What the front flipper does is it basically, not only does it hide the flipper on the knife, but it allows some skill, because you have to be able to find the flipping action on it, and your hand has to get used to doing it. And basically with most front flippers, they're operated by the thumb rather than the index finger. So there you have it. On this knife, basically, you would just take your thumb, put it up against the side of this flipper here, and then you just kind of push up. And it's sort of an angular type feel to it. And you also have to know when to execute it. So basically you take your thumb and then just push up. That's how it works. And what's interesting about this horn is he hides his front flippers really, really well. Almost to the point that they become an integral part of the knife where you can't even see the flipper design on it, which I love. I love knives that kind of hide that feature. You want to be able to, it's kind of exciting to be able to find, how do I open this? How do I flip it? Rather than just have it shoot out at you like, say, a regular front flipper knife, than a regular side flipper knife, or I guess you want to call it the pecker knife, is what I would call it, on the side. You want to be able to find it, and it makes it a much more artistic experience for you as a knife person, and you will eventually gravitate to a front flipper in time. And they're not all the same. So this one is more of a sort of a push, sort of a press, and then sort of swipe up type feeling. That's how you would flip this one. Because like I said, they're all different. So that's the Death's Horn one. This one is made by Andre Thorburn, definitely a really popular knife maker in South Africa. His wife does the bolster designs and he makes the knives. But his front flipper design is really, really unique. First of all, it points up. It's almost like this knife here, but the opposite, instead of it really being on the side, because you can actually see this flipper on the side over here. But what Andre Thorburn does is he angles it a certain way so that artistically it is a front flipper, right? But the flipper will actually stick up a little bit. Now, the way this front flipper works, it's not more of a swiping one like the Death's Horn, where you swipe and push up. This one's more of a pressing. You just press on it. Okay, you don't put your thumb here on the side or anything. Basically, you just press and it comes up. And you can use either your thumb. A lot of these you can use your thumb, or you can even use your index finger to pop it open if you get used to it. But the most popular way, as you can see, there's a little curvature there. That's where your thumb would go. So he does kind of help you find where you're going to flip it. And the trick to a front flipper is in a lot of the front flipper knives, you actually need the pocket clip because it gives you that little place to put your finger to flip it. Because I've seen friends of mine try to flick front flippers and they go flying across the room. Hopefully it would not be a very expensive Andre Thorburn knife like this. But yeah, the pocket clip helps with the grip, because if the pocket clip were not there, you'd actually have to try and grab it here on the side. You don't have much to hold on to, and your finger might even rub up against the blade, which might be a little bit dangerous. So you want to keep your hand kind of cupped on that pocket clip, and then you push up. And that's how Andre's work. So it's more of a push button front flipper and mechanism, which makes it really unique. And this is exclusive to Andre Thorburn. You won't see this type of flipper design on any other knife other than an Andre Thorburn knife. Hence is the case with almost all of these knives that you see here. Almost all of the front flipper designs are somewhat exclusive to the knife maker in order to make the knife fit aesthetically. So this one is by John Arnold, definitely one of my favorites. Now this one, what's interesting about this front flipper is you almost don't even see it at all. At least on this one, on the Death's Horn, you can tell there's a little bit of a jut sticking out, so you kind of have like an idea of where your finger is going to go. On this one, it's almost like it's completely hidden. He leaves just a little bit of a rise up above the knife there, but pretty much, you're at a loss as far as trying to understand how to flip it. It took me a while to get it. As you can see, there's jimping on the knife, but it's like 3 lines of jimping at the top, which doesn't leave you much. So you're not really quite sure how you're supposed to pop this open. It could be taken either as a thumb front flipper design, but I don't think so because I'm actually more comfortable using my index finger to pop it open. It's just so much more easier, and that's one of the reasons why I love the John Arnold front flipper knife, because you know most instinctively that it's going to be your index finger that's going to pop it open, and it just makes it look much more aesthetically pleasing on on a knife. And plus the fact that if you have a front flipper in your pocket, it kind of gives you the feeling that you're a real knife guy, because it actually takes some skill to pop these things open if you've never actually opened one. I mean, like I said, I had a friend that tried to do a front flipper and it went flying across the room. But you can learn how to flip these things. It just takes some skill and it takes some time to get used to it. Myself, I've always loved the concept of the front flipper, mostly for the aesthetic look of it. I just like to see different designs of how South African knife makers get the front flipper design to work on their knife. I think that's what attracts me to it. So this knife is probably one of my best prize pieces. The front flipper on this is similar to the front flipper on the Slim Boo, which is basically its smaller, or not slimmer version of this knife. But on this knife, it's much more obvious. And you can tell that the jimpings are similar. But on this knife, it's a much larger knife. And the front flipper design is a lot more accessible than on the Slim Boo. So it's the same concept, more of a push swipe. And what's great about front flippers is you can actually open knives slowly on a front flipper. You don't have to pop it open like on a regular flipper knife, right? You can actually open these knives quite slowly if you don't want to open them quick. But yeah, again, this is much more aesthetically pleasing to me. It fits the aesthetic look of the overall knife, and it continues that design. So that's one of the reasons why I like it. Here is a front flipper that is almost close to the Andre Thorburn front flipper. This one's made by Erucus Blumeris. Ironically, these guys are the same, so I'm probably going to say that Erucus Blumeris might have been inspired by Andre Thorburn's front flipper design. I don't know. I could be, because these guys are totally different knife makers as far as how they execute what they make in their knife making and how they do it. Andre Thorburn, like I said, his front flipper is much more pronounced, whereas on Erucus Blumeris' front flipper, it's a little bit more subtle, but not as subtle as the John Arnold, as you can see. Because on the John Arnold, you really got to find it. You don't even know where it is. But on this one, it's a little bit point sticking out. And again, because when I first got this knife and then I got this one, I automatically realized that this too was not necessarily a thumb front flipper, but an index front flipper. So just really, really nice action on that. Really doesn't fail. So the front flipper on this one is pretty close to this one. But on this one, it's less pronounced. Whereas on Erucus Blumeris' front flipper, he lets you actually kind of make it a little bit more accessible for you on his knife. But yet it's still hidden so that you don't really see it quite as much. Whereas on the Andre Thorburn, you got kind of like this teardrop look. Still very aesthetically pleasing. Probably more artistic because, it adds to the sculpture of the knife, I guess, in a way. But, then again, custom knives or custom knives from South Africa are considered more art, a little bit more artsy than your average EDC knife, which is one of the reasons why I got into customs. So for the last front flipper, you may see some similarities, but not really there. So as you can see, the front flipper obviously was inspired by Andre Thorburn. It's because Andre Thorburn, this is an Andre Thorburn collaboration piece. The name of the company on this one's called A2 Knives. And the two gentlemen that is responsible for making this front flipper was Andre Van Heerden and Andre Thorburn, hence the name A2. Yeah, two Andres making and collaborating on a piece. So as we can see, he gets rid of the teardrop look on the A2 knife, and he makes it much more rounded, but yet you can still see the Andre Thorburn influence on this front flipper. And this one, you know, because it's not as pronounced with sort of a point where you can tell that your thumb would go there to open it. This knife does not have that. This knife is more of a rounded feature. So basically you could do the same action using your thumb on this knife, but unlike this knife, while you can do it with your index finger on this one, because it's very pointy, it's not as comfortable as if you were to do it on this knife, because on this knife, it's real comfortable to use your index finger. So this is a really short video on front flippers, and just to show you what's out there as far as what kinds of front flipper knives that are available, and how each knife maker makes their front flipper exclusive to their own knife making. You know, they pretty much try to make it accessible, but the trick for these knife makers is to make it accessible to you, but still have that sort of artistic flair that you would like it to have on a custom piece. And I think that's one of the reasons why I love front flippers, because it's sort of a two-in-one. You're getting an aesthetically pleasing look, and also a pleasing feel. So when you use the front flipper knife, so you're actually kind of turned on twice by the way it looks and the way you deploy the knife, the way you find how to deploy the front flipper, because each one of these is completely different than the other, whereas on a regular flipper knife, while there may be some kind of difference in the flipper design on these knives, I'm not going to say they're pretty much all the same, but you're looking for, it's not as difficult for you to figure out how to flip something like this as opposed to a front flipper knife. It just kind of adds a little bit more to the experience of owning a knife. How's that? By actually getting a front flipper. So there you have it, the concept of front flippers and the different kinds of front flippers that there are. Here's even one where it's more of like a hook on the knife. This one's done by J.D. Van Deventer. He actually has his sort of sticking straight up and out. But you can tell you don't do this one with your index finger. This is also a thumb deal. So there you have it. So there you have it. Front flippers, all the different types there are. What does it add to your experience as a knife collector? This is Omar, the Knife Shark Guy. This may be the shortest video I've ever done. So, hope to see you all in the next video. Yes, I have another new knife coming soon. Hopefully I'll be able to pay for it. This is a very, very expensive hobby. But I am looking forward to getting a hold of that piece. It's going to be another Des Horn knife. He's probably my all-time favorite knife maker. Or if he's not, he's pretty damn close to being it. Because I do own at least... I own 2 of his knives. Soon I'll be owning 3. So, yeah. I have that to look forward to. And I'm going to be doing a review on... a product that I got. I'm sure you guys have heard of it. And I will see you all in the next video. So, enjoy the evening and happy knife hunting.